It's been a long time.
Yeah. Did I get any older looking?
No. No. Of course.
Your hair got longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Okay,
got
it's
your hair
there.
shorter.
Hi, Russ. Hi, Gilda.
Hi, Aaron.
Making you co-host, Gilda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll get started in about 8 minutes.
I've never been this early.
Oh, you're always early. She keeps me company while I wait for everyone. Uh-oh, someone's accidentally.
And I'm sorry I woke you up this morning.
Oh, you didn't wake me up. Did you wake someone else up?
I don't think so. I was being
Okay.
smart Alec.
Oh, okay.
Smart Lois.
Hi, Shodi. Hi, Andy. Oops, what's going on with
Hello?
Dennis? I think you're. Okay.
Hey, who's that clean cut looking guy? Gosh, no beard, haircut?
Hey, look at Isaac.
Hi, Isaac.
Hello there.
Hi, Isaac.
Hi,
Isaac.
Hi, Maurice.
There he is.
Hey there.
Oh, look at the nice picture of Maurice. Wow.
Wow.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Jody, you're out on the golf course?
Yep, same place.
Okay.
Oh,
Hi, Marcella. Welcome. Hi, Chris. Good to see you. Chris Detwaller.
Hi, Aaron.
Looks like you have snow-capped mountains behind you, too.
yes. Don't you need a jacket on?
I do.
Hi, Brian. Hi. There was someone else here. Mary. Hi, Mary. Oh, she can't hear us yet. Hello, Dr. Lynn.
She told me.
Well, that's fine. That's a good reason.
Hi, Mary.
Like,
Welcome.
call somebody else.
Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Wayne.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
It's fine.
Good to see you.
See you. Everybody else.
We'll get started in about 6 minutes, folks.
You want any food?
Hi, Rob. Good to see you.
Rob, is it too late to buy cookies from Lily?
Oh, I think Greg. That was Greg.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, never too late.
we did our order already. Hello, Mike Dreby.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Andy, you shaved.
I did, yes. Yeah.
Boy, Andy is so clean cut. My God.
Well, actually, I need to go get a haircut. But I think they're just opening up, so maybe next week. Maybe
They're
next week.
open. Yeah, they're open.
Are you wearing a ponytail?
No,
That's the
it's a little longer. It's a little longer. I could use one of those little, one of my daughter's rubbies, you know, one of the little hair ties in the back.
Borrow one from Mitch.
Crunchy.
Oh, no, I'm not borrowing anything from Mitch. No.
Hey, Andy,
Dennis.
did you get my email about being a member of the finance committee?
Oh, you know,
Or you just want to be an
Yeah.
observer?
put me down. I'm happy to be an observer.
All right. All right.
Hi, Jesse. Good to see
If
you.
you- if you-
Michelle.
Well, Dennis, you gave me a choice, so.
That I did.
What's for lunch, Janice?
Grilled cheese sandwich.
All right.
What is this? I don't know what these things are. And some kind of a dessert.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you order in or did the?
Yeah, I have my people take care of me.
Well, that's nice. That's good.
Yeah,
If you can get, it's just hard to find good people these days.
I know. I'm well taken care of.
That's what the word on the street is, that you're well taken care of.
Hi, Devin. Hi, Nicole. Dr.
Hi.
Wilson. Good to see
Hi,
you.
Aaron.
Hello, good to see you, Nicole.
Hi,
Haven't
everybody.
seen you in a while. John Donovan, good to see you. Greg Johansson, hello. There was a question about Girl Scout cookies, Greg.
Oh, hello, ladies.
Maybe he didn't hear me.
What's that?
Barbara had a question about if the Girl Scout cookies were still available.
Oh, they sure are, Barbara.
Put a
Okay,
link in the chat.
Billy, come here.
my people will call your people.
That works. Billy, they want to know if Girl Scout cookies are still available.
How have the sales of Girl Scout cookies been in relation to past years?
I think I got more than 100.
Wow.
Oh,
Good
man.
work.
This is
Really?
great.
Internet.
This is her first year and it's Daisy Scout, so I don't really have any comparison, but she's almost at 200 boxes. It's pretty good.
Wow.
Great,
Oh,
great.
No pressure for next year.
Yeah, right?
That's a lot
And
of
she's
cookies.
very grateful
200.
for all of your support.
Having 2 Girl Scouts, I can tell you that's a lot of cookies.
Well,
Is it? That's good, see?
tell us when the delivery is going to happen, Lily.
Yep.
How are you going to be delivering the cookies?
I think that's not.
I'm actually picking them all up next weekend and then we'll drop them off on your doorsteps.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
that's lovely.
Great.
Yeah, we'll give something
So
to do too.
Lily's having Dad deliver them. That's good, Lily.
That's how you,
Get him
Smart,
to work.
Lily.
It'll help.
if you need any other tips, Lily, call my husband.
Okay.
Good job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Get back to work.
Hi, Sophia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Hello, Rotarians.
Hi, Sophia.
Hi. Great to see you.
Happy New Year.
oh yeah, Happy New Year.
Yes.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
Chinese New Year. Yeah.
It looks
Chinese New
like
Year's Eve.
it looks like the party's going on right there.
Yes, I have my Chinese New Year decoration as my background. We are in Chinese New Year's Eve, so tonight there is going to be, I think, a lot of Chinese food on the tables for the families that celebrate.
Yeah.
Oh, neat. So what's the animal for this year?
This coming year, starting tomorrow, is Year of the Ox, and that
Ox,
symbolizes strength and
Nice.
hard work, being rewarded. It's also a year with money. And so it is also a year focused on relationships. So it's a year where, wishing everybody the best personally, financially, and professionally.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a better year for sure.
All right, folks, we will get started.
Okay.
As we remember that February is Peace and Conflict Month in the Rotary world, I call the February 11, 2021 meeting of Rotary Club of San Marino to order. We are truly a club that
Make a
makes a difference. Thank you. Please stand and join me in reciting the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First,
Is
it true?
Truth.
Second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third, will it
Build goodwill and better
Friendship.
friendship.
Fourth,
Will it be beneficial
beneficial
to all concerned?
Thank you. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation led today by Andy Barth. Andy?
Yes. Okay, if we could please put our hands over our hearts. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So now I just would like to say an invocation. So to the Lord who looks after us all, please help us through this difficult time. Grant us strength, ingenuity, compassion, and caring to get through this global pandemic. Please provide us with humility and forgiveness so that we may unite again in unity, that we may be united as a chapter of Rotary, that we may be united as a community, and that we may be united as a country. Please look after us, give us strength and courage, and help us to fulfill our missions and ideals. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Andy. Really
You're very
appreciate
welcome.
that. Okay, introduction of guests. You have Gilda. If you can.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so I know we have a lot of guests today. Wow, 43 people on the Zoom today. Awesome. Thank you for joining us. So I know Barbara has many guests with our speaker today. And Barbara, if you want to introduce them now, you're welcome to. And then I have other guests as well. We have other guests as well.
Okay, let me begin with Margaret Keene. Margaret, thank you for coming. Margaret is a former employee of the Huntington Hospital, and she was there for 8 years as Director of Public Relations from 1989 to 1997. She's currently the Assistant Dean of Development at the Gould School of Law at USC. So we're happy to have Margaret join us, who knows many of the participants today. I'd also like to welcome Chris Magana, who's the patient liaison for Keck Signature Care of Keck Medicine of USC. Chris navigates hand in hand patients through the labyrinth of medical specialties at Keck Hospital, truly an asset, and we really are happy she's here to hear Dr. Morgan today. Lois Matthews is one of our own, and I'm sure most of you know that Lois is a former trustee of the Huntington Hospital, and she remains a staunch supporter of the institution. And I'm very happy to see that Rary Simmons is with us today, who is a trustee of the Huntington. I think she said for 25 years. Rary herself is an institution in San Marino, and I've known her for over 40 years. So Rary, thank you for coming. I don't want to forget my husband, Scott, who is here today, my spouse of 52 years, and he's been a patient of the Huntington as well. Kathy Chadwell will be joining us. I think some of you may remember Kathy from San Marino High School. She graduated and went on to Stanford. She and I worked together at the Huntington back when, in 1991. 29 years later, Kathy is still there, and she's now the executive director of philanthropy and public affairs, and she was instrumental in helping coordinate this program today. I think she and Dr. Morgan will join us at about 12:20. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Impressive, and welcome to all of our visitors. Let me also introduce other folks that are here with us. The city, I see Amanda Fowler. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Yes, okay, very good. We've had you visit before. And I see Dr. Marcella Marlowe. I'm looking for you. Where is your, I saw you a minute ago. There you are. Okay, welcome. And I see Sophia with the Chinese background, Chinese New Year background. Welcome. Let's see. I saw somebody that said Orange. Is Orange Avenue? I'm not sure who that is.
I don't think they're on anymore.
Okay, it looks like they dropped off. Okay.
If they come back on, that's my sister-in-law, Ashley. She's actually a nurse in cardiac surgery at Huntington.
Okay.
Thought you might be interested.
All right, wonderful.
And I do have another guest.
Okay.
It is Andrew's first birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Hello, Andrew.
I think that's it. Did I miss anybody?
Lily's there.
Oh, Lily's there too? I didn't see Lily.
Lily
Okay.
Johansson, yeah, she's in.
Gilda, I'd just like to say that Liz is going to be listening to the talk too. She's very interested in what this program.
Beautiful. Okay. And I think, Barbara, your guest chat, Kathy has also joined us.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you. I just introduced you and I said most of the truth. And I'm very proud to say that I was the one that brought you to the Huntington Hospital. And I'm very proud that today you're the Executive Director of Philanthropy and Public Affairs. You didn't hear me thank you for helping coordinate this program, but I am grateful.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. And I don't know if Dr. Morgan's on yet. It doesn't seem like she is. I think probably in another couple of minutes. Oh, no, there she is. She's connecting right now.
Okay.
Great. All right. Thank you to all guests and welcome to San Bernardino Rotary. All right. Now we will do the Pass the Polio Pig program. So if you can raise your envelopes and your contributions. I see you, Stephanie, Johnson, Dennis, John Jones, Barbara Bice, JP, Nicole. Thank you all. Mary, thank you. Denise, thank you so much. All right, perfect. Thank you everyone for donating to the polio program. Very quickly, member anniversaries. Evie Darnali celebrates our second year with our club on February 14th. Volga celebrates his first year on February 12th. Gilda celebrates her 9th year as a San Marino Rotarian. Actually, she already celebrated February 9th. Congratulations, Gilda. February 9th, also Chief Rueda, a 4th year with San Marino Rotary. So congratulations to all of you. And then finally, a wedding anniversary on February 14th. Devlin and his wife, Doris, celebrate 6 years in union. Okay, we will now move on to announcements before we move on to our program. Sophia Chan from East Meets West, if you can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Aaron. And again, hello, fellow Rotarians. It is my honor to be here among all the greatness that you all do. And so we are trying to do a tiny little bit here at East Meets West. We are going to be celebrating, as you can see from my background, Happy Chinese New Year. And that free virtual gala event is going to be this coming, I should say next week, Sunday, the 21st. So I will put in the chat on the actual information. And I just wanted to say thank you for those of you that have already provided donations and support. We do have a VIP reception the day before, which is Saturday, at your very beloved member, Paul Broussard's home. And so that's Saturday, the 20th, 2 to 4 p.m. if you have already purchased VIP tickets. I'll put the rest in the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Okay, Stephanie Johnson, Chili Cook-Off.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to remind you all that next Thursday during the meeting, we're going to have the chili cook-off. And so this is your last chance to let me know whether you'd like lunch or not. So please let me know, and we will have the lunches ready for pickup on Thursday morning. I hope you all can join in. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Terrific, Stephanie. And you'll send an email about details of when to pick up and all that stuff?
Yes, to the people who have RSVP. Yes.
Terrific. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, Bill Payne, Mark Liang. Is Bill on? There he is.
We have some good news to share. Mark Liang, our 28th would-be Global Grant Ambassador Scholar application has been approved. It's into RI. Hopefully they take their normal 2 weeks turnaround. The good news this week also was, in order to complete the application, we had to have the Cambridge side give us a sponsor, both as a club and a Rotarian. And they did that, and as I say, that allowed us to complete the application. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that he'll be our 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, finally, we have Mike Dreby regarding charities.
Thanks, Mr. President. So a couple of announcements. The regularly scheduled San Marino Rotary Charities meeting is set for 2 weeks from today. And I just want to make sure all of our board members are aware of that. That is Thursday, the 25th at 1:35. It'll be a Zoom meeting, and I'll get the agenda, the minutes, the financials, and all of that out to you in plenty of time. Secondly, the committee, or rather the board, has been officially invited to a special meeting of San Marino Rotary Charities Board. And this relates to the funding that we hope will come through when our Global Scholar is approved. It should be a very brief meeting. As you know, we cannot accept or expend funds outside of our budget without letting the board know and getting their approval. And that's really what this is about. Bill Payne will be joining us, and that is this Friday at 3 p.m. And the board members should have received an email with the login instructions. And that's all I've got, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Mike. Terrific. All right, our program for next week, as Stephanie mentioned, is the chili cook-off. If you haven't RSVP'd, please do so. And thank you to Stephanie and her committee, as well as the programs committee, for putting that together for us. I will now hand it over to Barbara to introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, Aaron. You're going to do a screen share, is that correct?
Spotlight, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to speak today. Given this pandemic and the anxiety and uncertainty surrounding healthcare, Huntington Hospital and its policies and procedures are more vital than ever to our health and well-being of this community. Before Dr. Morgan answers some questions that we will, I'd like to just briefly give you a little bit of her background. She's been the CEO of Huntington Hospital since 2017, and she brings over 30 years of experience in healthcare and healthcare management. Prior to coming to Pasadena, Dr. Morgan served as the president of Legacy Emmanuel Medical Center in Portland, and she was the corporate vice president of Legacy Health, which is Oregon's largest healthcare system. Dr. Morgan received her medical degree from the University of Washington, and she completed her surgical residency at Stanford, earned her trauma and critical care fellowship at the University of Pennsylvania Medical Center, and her MBA is from Pacific Lutheran University. She's also a board certified trauma surgeon and intensivist. Now, I know she has an intensive schedule, but I didn't know until recently that an intensivist is a doctor who specializes in the treatment of patients in intensive care. So we know she is a busy woman. And again, I thank you very much for being here. The focus, while Dr. Morgan has been at Huntington, has been on programs that support patient care, strengthening physician relationships, and enhancing financial performance. I want you to know, Dr. Morgan, that in Portland, it's 34 degrees today and it's 80% chance of snow. The Pasadena prediction is for 67 degrees and mostly sun. So I hope you're as happy to be in Pasadena as we are to have you here. Great. The questions that were submitted from Rotarians and friends have fallen into three categories. One, the impact of COVID on Huntington Hospital, the affiliation between Huntington Hospital and Cedars-Sinai Health System, and the challenges facing Huntington Hospital in the next 10 years. Dr. Morgan will answer the questions in these three categories, and then any unanswered questions we'll take at the end of the program. So let's begin with this COVID questions that are on the mind of everyone as we seek reliable information about testing and vaccinations. Can you just tell us a little bit about how COVID has impacted the utilization of the hospital?
Sure, I would be happy to. I'm going to just take a one moment of grace, if I could, and thank you all for inviting me to be here. It certainly is my pleasure, and you know, it is no secret amongst my friends and family that I have a special hashtag that is hashtag never leaving SoCal, and it is. And it is based strictly on the fact that it's 34 degrees and raining in Portland, Oregon. So certainly I'm very happy to be here. And as I came, none of us were expecting what happened over the last year. Though I will tell you, had we really sort of had all of our heads up, I suppose it probably could have been predictable given some of the things that we've seen earlier this decade with Ebola and some of the other types of infections. You know, we were cruising along in February, I will tell you, started to hear about this Chinese virus, and you know, all thought it was quite interesting and very curious. And I will tell you, you know, as the month started to go on, really began to understand the seriousness of it. And certainly has, I think, probably from a healthcare perspective, changed our lives forever. I think all of us have never seen anything like this. And quite frankly, hope to never again, but certainly concede that we may well. You know, we have been quite challenged at Huntington in terms of the volume and the severity of illness that we've seen with COVID patients. We have seen over 36,000 patients that thought they had COVID. We've diagnosed over 5,000 patients, and we've admitted over 2,300 patients to the hospital, with over 500 of those going to the ICU. So it really has been quite a burden, and we have had to be very flexible in terms of what we needed to do in order to take care of that amount of volume. We'd added over 162 beds to our facility, putting beds in units that had been closed, converting pediatric space to adult space, using areas that were never intended for 24-hour care. So our endoscopy unit suddenly became an ICU. We really had to adapt to be able to take care of the volume of patients. On January, what I will tell you is in July, we had a peak of 100 patients, and I remember very distinctly having a conversation with my chief nursing officer going, I don't know where we're going to put one more patient. And then I will tell you that January 11th, we had 206 COVID patients in the hospital, in addition to all of our other patients. And so we've been a little bit like the frog in the boiling water, where you just, it gets quite warm, but you keep trying to adapt and keep trying to adapt. And that's really what our staff have been doing.
Did I understand that at one point where you have tents erected for patients that are non-life-threatening conditions?
That's correct. That in addition to, you know, part of that adding 162 extra beds to be able to take care of patients included putting up some tents that we could manage mildly, moderately ill patients, not quite well enough to go home, but that could be managed, quite frankly, in a tent. We also actually put some beds in the Braun Auditorium. I don't know who's been in the Braun Auditorium for lectures, but again, not a place that we had ever anticipated caring for patients. And yet, you know, when the community need was great, we were doing a lot of out-of-the-box thinking.
Do you have enough ICU beds currently?
We do. Actually, at the moment, we had gotten up to, again, it's a question of, are there COVID patients or are there non-COVID patients? Again, we about doubled our ICU capacity, again, using places that we hadn't really ever thought of as ICUs. So our normal ICU capacity is 30, and we got up to 76 ICU beds at one point.
Wow, okay. What's been the impact on other medical procedures, the sort of whole COVID surge?
Right. Well, you know what? It has had a pretty significant impact. I think some in indirect ways and some directly. Directly, there was a period in March, April, May, and actually again in December and January, where the California Department of Health, quite frankly, just said, you may not do any elective surgery. You can still do emergency and urgent surgeries, but not elective surgery. And so, you know, when the state agency says you can't, you can't. So that was a pretty direct impact, but I will say indirectly, I think that a lot of people have chosen to defer care that they might otherwise have sought because they didn't want to get COVID or didn't want to be at risk. You know, some of those things I think are things that were easily enough deferred, you know, an elective knee replacement, you know, you can manage with some pain medicine and some physical therapy and defer till later. There are other things that really we feel very strongly that shouldn't be deferred, and in fact are quite concerned about. I'll give you an example. Again, because of the state order, our Randall Breast Center on our campus, which typically we would diagnose 50 women a month there with breast cancer. By state order, that site was closed for March, April, and May. I will tell you from my perspective, there are 150 women out there who have breast cancer that I don't know how to find because I don't know who didn't come in. It's the null set, right? And so we have a lot of concerns around deferred healthcare maintenance, you know, the screening colonoscopies that normally happen, and, you know, all of the preventive care that our internal medicine doctors and other internal medicine doctors do that diagnose people with all kinds of things, whether it's heart disease or cancers, early stage cancers that, you know, I feel very strongly that we are going to see the end result of that and not necessarily in a happy way in the future due to all of that deferred care.
At some point, will you do some sort of a public relations outreach to people who have had to defer their care, that, you know, they need to come in and get checked?
Yeah, we had actually, before this most recent sort of December, January surge, we had actually already started that programming to tell people it's, you know, it's safe to come to the hospital. We have very defined programs and processes to keep people safe, and that it's not safe to defer care. And as we come off of this most recent surge, we will begin that programming again.
At one point, the Pasadena Convention Center was considered an overflow site. Is that still in the plan?
Yeah, we had worked with the city of Pasadena. That was around the time of our surge in the summer, and actually even put, they weren't beds, they were cots, but actually set up one of the very large rooms at the Pasadena Convention Center to be able to take care of, again, fairly non-acute patients, people that needed extra help, were not really able to go home, but did not need a significant amount of clinical care. What I will say is, as that peak relaxed, we did not ever execute. We were prepared. We did not ever open that site. And I think we left it up for about 2 extra months after the surge, and then agreed with the city of Pasadena, Department of Health agreed that we would not need it. We did discuss it again as we were going into the December and January surge, but one thing that was quite different was the surge in the summer was very focused sort of on the West Coast. The Midwest and the East Coast were not having surges at that point. So our ability to get extra help by hiring nurses who, what are called traveling nurses who came from away, was not particularly difficult. This last surge was really nationwide and really posed a difficulty in terms of availability of nursing. And it's part of why the California Department of Health started to deploy National Guards people to assist hospitals all across California, because you just couldn't get travelers because everywhere was kind of blowing up. Arizona was a mess, Florida was a mess, New York was a mess. And so it became very difficult. We did discuss reopening the convention center, but I had to be quite honest, I didn't think we could staff it. And if we were going to be relatively tight on staff, my preference was to put the tents up at the hospital so that we could flex more easily here on campus than trying to do that at a site as far away as the convention center.
Well, I understand too that you've just received a designation as a magnet hospital, which I guess is the gold standard for nursing programs. One of the questions that came up was the adequate staff during the pandemic. So thank you for addressing that. Another question on the minds of many was how the hospital is combating staff fatigue. Obviously, there's been a problem with that. Could you just comment on that?
Yeah, what I will say, I think there are two things that we've been dealing with. One of which is, you know, our staff members have been working very long hours in very difficult conditions. You know, the putting on the PPE, in particular, units called PAPRs, which make people sort of look like space people, are hot and they're uncomfortable. And you know, they've been working that way for almost a year now, and so there are all of those constraints. I will also tell you that our staff members live out in the community, and they also have been getting COVID or having family members with COVID and needing to take care of them, and so it has been quite a burden. Excuse me. That we have been managing. We escalated kind of our employee assistance program, which would be psych services. We instituted a whole group of online additional psychiatric care for our staff. We've also implemented a lot of other programs that are intended to help them. Early on, worked with the County of LA for additional dollars for childcare for some of our lowest wage workers. We provided kind of had an in-house grocery store because people are having such difficult times getting to the grocery store, so people could come and buy some of the basic staples. So we've tried to and those are just a few things that I would list. We've tried to do things that would continue to support our staff. One of the things that has become very clear is that in the United States, alcohol sales have never been higher than they are currently. Suicide rates have skyrocketed. In particular, narcotic associated deaths have never been higher than they have been during COVID. Domestic abuse complaints have never been higher than they have been in COVID. So I would say as a society, I think we have all really suffered from the effects of COVID, the effects of quarantine, the economic effects. And, you know, we believe pretty strongly that from a psychological perspective, both as a society and certainly for medical staff who are beginning to have some very PTSD-like symptoms, we will be dealing with the post-COVID epidemic much longer than we've been dealing with the COVID epidemic.
Sadly true. I'm a resident of Pasadena and read the Star News regularly, and I must say I appreciate the articles from Dr. Kim Schreiner, your infectious disease specialist. She's great, and she just sort of gives you the straight word, and it might be depressing, but you know it's a reliable source. So I think she's such an asset to your staff.
I agree. I'm pretty convinced that NPR is going to give her own show here at some point. But yeah, we are actually very proud of Kim, and she has really, along with her infectious disease partners, have really been linchpins for our planning as we have managed this disease.
We've all been reading about the vaccination distribution, and what is Huntington Hospital's role in the distributing of vaccines?
Yeah, well, we are receivers of vaccine. We are not distributors. Just the the state is the current only distributor that will be shifting to Blue Shield soon. But we have given over 10,000 vaccines, and so have been working very hard and cooperatively with the Pasadena Department of Health to get as many vaccines in arms as they will allow us to give. The constraints and the rules around it are quite limited. The first thing we did, of course, was vaccinate as many of our healthcare workers as we could. Then the Pasadena Department of Health said we could vaccinate Pasadenians who were over 75. And now they are allowing us to vaccinate people who are over 65. So we work off of, we first vaccinated, of course, our healthcare workers, people on our healthcare plan, because they are all exposed to our healthcare workers. And then our volunteers, who we would love to have come back to the hospital, and we want them to be safe enough to do that. And I've kind of gone through those lists. And now what happens is really basically the city of Pasadena gives us lists off of their registration every week, that we work through those lists and call people and have them come in and have appointments. But it is all at the direction of the Pasadena Department of Health.
Okay, thank you. A second area of interest is the affiliation between Huntington and Cedars-Sinai Health System. How does this affiliation benefit the hospital?
Yeah, I think that I get asked that. I get asked that all the time. What I will tell you is that Huntington, I mean, COVID has certainly been a challenge, but that, Huntington, if we take COVID out of the picture, this year and next year and the year after is going to be absolutely fine. But when I came here, one of the conversations that I had with our board is, they very rightly so, we're extremely proud that we have been a very high quality, strong community hospital for 125 years. And we need you to do whatever is going to keep us that for the next 125 years. And I said, absolutely. And really what I started to do was sort of look at the long term. And by that, I mean in the range of 10 to 15 years. And the things that, what it would take for us, again, to maintain state-of-the-art equipment, beautiful campus, the best of clinicians, all of those things that to our community, Huntington Hospital is all about. And I will tell you that it is increasingly difficult for independent hospitals to do that. Physicians, many physicians now want to be employed by the hospital that they're working for. Technology gets increasingly expensive as we go along, and the kinds of economies of scale that are available to larger systems are not available to independent hospitals. So I really worked with a strategy team to really look at, in the best interest of Huntington, what would keep us around and relevant and doing the great work that we want to continue to do for the next 10, 15, 25, 50 years. And it really became pretty clear to me that that being part of a system would be in our best interest. I would just tell you, and I was wrong, I was in a conversation with our board and some consultants, and I was kind of having the same conversation about being an independent hospital versus being in a system. And one of our board members said to me, well, how many independent hospitals like us are there in the US? And I said, oh gosh, and I'll be honest with you, I was kind of spitballing based on, thinking in my mind. I said, oh gosh, it's probably half of what it was 5 years ago. I'm going to say it's probably around 65, 70. And everyone was like, oh, that's not very many. And I said, no, it's not. Well, I have to say our consultants went away. And again, you have to have the right lens. So I would say independent hospital, urban, our side, or, suburban, our size, our number of beds, our constellation of services, our consultant team came back and said, hey, Dr. Morgan, remember when you answered that like 65? And I said, yeah, I remember that. They said, that's not the right answer. And I said, oh, that's okay. I mean, okay, tell me what it is. I'll just, I'll say I was wrong and tell them the right answer. And they said 15. And I said, did you say 50? And they said, no, 15. And I said, okay, well, that's worse than I thought. And so really, when you think about the fact that there are only 15 similar hospitals across the United States that were still independent, out of about 3,500 accredited hospitals, I think it starts to identify the difficulties that standalone hospitals have, particularly when they are those strong tertiary hospitals that we are, that when you're a level 2 trauma center, when you're a stroke center, when you're when you're a heart attack center, when you have all of those specialty services, maintaining that technology, maintaining those high quality physicians becomes increasingly difficult as an independent hospital. And I would tell you, there are other things that as an independent hospital, I really felt like are going to be important in the future that we would never be able to do independently. For my geek people out there, blockchain technology, genetic medicine, artificial intelligence. There are a lot of things that I see coming down the road from a medical technology standpoint that, quite frankly, I knew we would never be able to afford independently.
Well, thank you. That's very helpful. So the board will continue to have oversight of the hospital. I'm one of many in the group who have a keen interest in philanthropy. So what about funds raised for the Huntington? Will they stay? How will that work?
They will stay. And that actually, quite frankly, was a key part of our negotiation, that really funds raised here for Huntington will stay at Huntington to support our programming.
That's good news. Will clinical programs be impacted? For instance, will Huntington patients have to go to Cedars for a specialty, or will Huntington patients go to Cedars for research? How would that work? I understand this isn't final yet. That we should make that clear.
Right. Yeah. When you first started the question, will patients see an impact? I was going to say, well, I hope so, because that's why we're doing it. But as far as what we hope to be able to offer is, again, if people are interested in participating in research, certainly we hope to have those avenues open. As far as the care that we currently provide, we have every intention of maintaining our current care. If there are extra sort of sub specialties that are available at Cedars, we would certainly hope that we would be able to provide patients an avenue of access to get into that care that may well be provided at Cedars. If it's a common subspecialty that Cedars has and we don't, and I will tell you, we have a very large number of specialties, so there aren't that many areas, then we would hope that Cedars would be able to support that right here in Pasadena.
Would the medical staff from Cedars have privileges at Huntington and vice versa?
They not automatically, because you have to apply independently. But I would say, if someone from Cedars wanted to have privileges at Huntington today, they could certainly do that. It's as many of you know, we have a large cadre of USD physicians that work primarily at Huntington and have privileges at both at Keck as well as at Huntington, and the same thing for City of Hope. So if there were a reason for someone from Cedars to want to have privileges here, it wouldn't be an issue. It would never, because they are independently licensed hospitals, you would have to apply independently.
Okay, so I understand both organizations are reviewing the Attorney General's 300-page script that they gave to you. So would you see a timeline that
what I will say is, normally the Attorney General approvals, I've looked at many, and they're normally in the range of about 25 to 35 pages historically. This one does happened to be over 300 pages long. What I will say is we are working together collaboratively through that. I'm a surgeon, so I'm not very patient. So I might decide that I'm sort of done with the analysis, but some of our other team members have more work to do, and so I'm hoping that we'll have a definitive plan in the next few months.
Okay, thank you. Let's look to conclude at the challenges facing Huntington Hospital in the next 10 years. There was frequently asked questions about, do we have enough physicians, enough specialists to replace the retiring docs in the community?
Yeah, well, what I will say is, we are very fortunate that Huntington has been able for all of these years to continue to support both a surgery residency as well as an internal medicine residency. And, that gives us a chance to train, not only train some really fine physicians, but we try to hang on to the best ones. And so those programs have been a very good pipeline for us. What I will say also is that I think the big advantages of being being affiliated with a place like Cedars is that people, that's very important. Some people really want access to that kind of academic experience. And so I think actually over the long term, an affiliation like Cedars will only make it easier for us to recruit and retain physicians.
Okay. How can patients ensure access to Huntington and its physicians? I know that navigating insurance options can be confusing.
Yeah, I think, we try very hard to be as available. I mean, if people need to be cared for, they come to the emergency room and we will take care of anybody. So I do just want to say that. Certainly healthcare and healthcare insurance is definitely can be very challenging to navigate, and we're very sensitive to that. Sometimes the hospital, and we are on very many, most of the common insurances locally, the hospital may be on an insurance, but perhaps the physician on call is not. Which can be a problem, and we are trying to develop ways that we can be more and more transparent about that for patients, and that because that becomes this whole issue of surprise billing. What I would say is don't buy an insurance policy that doesn't have Huntington on it. That would be one way to assure access. And if for some reason an insurance company doesn't, I would make it clear to them that's a organization that you do want access to, and then it's important to you because you live here that you want to be able to go to your local hospital.
Well, I know you have over 900 physicians, including your Huntington healthcare physicians, and that's a cadre of people we're very happy to be able to rely on. I went to your website, and for those of you who might want to write this down, it's huntingtonhospital.org. And if you scroll down to the patient information, it's very helpful. And it's a client-friendly website that I think is again, helps with the transparency of navigating through these systems. So I appreciate that. In terms of the hospital's capital needs, what do you anticipate over the next, say, 10 years?
Well, we do, health organizations have no shortage of the need for capital. Certainly, again, maintaining state-of-the-art technology is expensive business. We are in the middle of and have been for a while of a capital campaign for some upgrades to our operating rooms and to our cardiac cath labs and building a cardiac center. And so all of that work, we also have been shoring up our clinical buildings to meet California earthquake requirements. And so there's never, as one of my former bosses used to say, I never met a dollar that I couldn't figure out how to spend. And so, again, investments and certainly our buildings are important. But I would also say, we make big investments in our staff. you mentioned, and thank you for mentioning that we're a magnet hospital, and we have been for many years now. But that comes with a price tag of investments in terms of education and nursing research, and making sure that we actually have over 80% of our nurses have their bachelor's in nursing. That the Magnet organization actually commended us for meeting that milestone, because it's very hard to do. But in order to do that, there's a lot of investments. We give a lot of scholarships to our nurses. We've really been able to encourage many of our nurses to go back to school and complete their bachelor's, and all of that comes at a price. Maintaining our surgery and our internal medicine residencies, there's a cost to us to that. We believe so strongly in that investment, because we do believe that it has maintained the high quality of physicians at our hospital and in this community. But all of that does indeed come at a cost.
Well, thank you. There's little doubt that with the current and future challenges, you have a full plate for sure. But I think you and your team are certainly well equipped to handle what's ahead of you. We do have a few minutes. If there are any unanswered questions, I'm going to suggest that Aaron call on people if they have any questions.
Sure. Let me change my view. We have Dennis. Dennis, can you unmute yourself? Oh, right.
Dr. May, that was a great presentation, and thank you. I have two questions. One, how is Huntington's relationship, is it with Methodist, if any, and how do you share on that? And then the second question is, if you go to Huntington and you're admitted, are you cared for by your doctor or by a hospitalist?
Okay, so the first one, I would say our relationship with Methodist is collegial, but we don't have necessarily any particular business relationships, things like that. That actually would be considered a no-no and an antitrust issue. And so, so like I said, we're collegial, think a lot of them, but we don't have formal relationships with Methodist. We do have a hospitalist service, and I would say if you get admitted to the hospital, it really is quite dependent on who your primary care doctor is. I will tell you that over the years, fewer and fewer primary care doctors do come to the hospital to manage their own patients. We do still have a few that prefer to do that. And as long as they're privileged, that certainly is possible. I would say the vast majority of patients, however, are cared for by a hospitalist, which means there's someone who works in the hospital full-time, and they're there for that purpose. And they don't have necessarily their, on an outpatient standpoint, they don't have outpatient hospitals. They're only in the hospital doctors.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dennis.
That was the choice.
I have John Donovan, then Maurice, and then I see Denise, and then Mary. Gotcha.
Oh, yes. Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time, especially during these times. I'm sure you may have probably heard the quote by the late management guru, Peter Drucker, in which he talked about hospitals. I think his exact quote was, hospitals are the most complex organization ever devised by man. So being both with your background as a surgeon and MBA, and what is I guess, first of all, the Department of Public Health, what regulation or what during the pandemic oversight did they have, if any, jurisdiction did they have over the hospital? And then just, going into the hospital every day with it, it is such a complex organization. When you really think about Peter Drucker's quote, you have so many multifaceted regulatory agencies overseeing you. How do you keep up with that? And what's the most direct one that oversees you, would you say?
Yeah, well, thank you. I actually love Peter Drucker, so thanks for bringing him up. And I think he actually got that one right. I think I don't know. I think the last time I counted, and I haven't for a while, there are well over 275 regulatory agencies that have some bearing on our healthcare on our healthcare business. So it is incredibly complex. Fortunately, we have a very talented team of people who help keep all of those regulations in order. You know, it's very interesting. It's a little bit complex relationship wise for us in Pasadena. So we are licensed by the state of California, which makes the California Department of Health our overseeing agency. However, we also, in California, there are many things that are designated to the local healthcare authorities or the county departments of health. However, because Pasadena is one of the few cities, so that might make you think that there is some jurisdiction around from the LA County Department of Health. However, Pasadena being one of the few cities that has an independent Department of Health, we have some responsibility to the Pasadena Department of Health. So I think you heard me mention that that's where all of our vaccine comes from the state to Pasadena and then Pasadena to us. And so our relationships are a little bit complex. So for example, our designation as a trauma center comes from the LA County Department of Health. Our vaccine comes from the Pasadena Department of Health, and overarching is the California Department of Health, so that when they make all facilities mandates, those supersede almost anything that the Pasadena Department of Health says. But the LA County Department of Health does not supersede the Pasadena Department of Health. So you're right, healthcare is very complex.
Thank you, John. Okay, we have Maurice next.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Morgan, for a great presentation. So I just had a question from a historical perspective. I guess it'd just be more an opinion of what you thought. But, you know, I've been thinking about the 1918 pandemic and then how I'm not clear on how it ended and what brought everyone back to normal. You know, with the number of people that died, and then the decade of the 20s right after 1918 just being just like everyone was just had gone back to whatever they were doing before. So how does that model coincide with us? It's almost 100 years later.
Yeah.
Like, how will we get back to normal, or what is the new normal? Or because when you look at it historically, it's as if 1918 never happened. People just started going to football games and to events, and you had the whole Roaring '20s. And so, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I would say the 1918 pandemic, certainly there were a lot of people who died. They actually did get to a point where they were much better about wearing masks. And then so many people became ill that they developed herd immunity. And, you know, once you get at that sort of, if you will, herd immunity, then it becomes much easier for that virus to die out, because people just won't get reinfected, and it has no host and no place to live. So the medical theory is basically that I think people were a little more accepting in the final analysis of some of the societal constraints that they needed to participate in order to stay alive, because of course we didn't have vaccines then. And then there was a development of herd immunity. What I will say is that once that had developed, you know, humans being humans, I think just maybe have fairly short memories. Although, you know, I sort of, I think of it as a little bit akin to the way sometimes, at least and I think sort of my generation, have viewed people who lived through the Depression. And what I mean by that is I can remember when I was a teenager, you know, well, not in front of anyone because I'd have gotten in trouble, but rolling my eyes, at least by myself, at my grandmother for rinsing out plastic sandwich bags and putting them in the dish dryer to dry because she couldn't bear to be wasteful of something that's such a precious resource. And, you know, I was a teenager over there going, oh my God, now I have to dry plastic bags. Like, what the heck? And you know, I will tell you that through all of this, I probably will never fly on a plane without a mask again. And, you know, and yet I am quite certain that at some point, one of my grandchildren, hopefully not in front of me, because I wouldn't like that disrespect, is going to be rolling their eyes because they're going to pick grandma up at the airport and I'm going to have a mask on. And they're going to say, can you believe it? She won't even fly without a mask. And so, you know, we are all products of our experiences. And so I think in some ways we will be forever changed. I'm most curious about handshaking personally. You know, what we have really seen is this year is that our flu rates have been almost non-existent. I'm going to give a little shout out to two lovely ladies who I know are on the call, Rary Simmons and Louise Matthews, who are part of the Huntington family as board members. But I will tell you at one point, that brilliant Rary had me on the phone and she said, can you tell me how many people are in the hospital right now with the flu? And I said, you know, God, Rary, I don't know. You know, it's a great question. Let me go find out, you know, and come to find out it was December and we had 0 patients in the hospital with the flu. And I have to tell you that normally in December, that is our most common diagnosis. And so something has distinctly changed in all of our masks and our social distancing in terms of the fact that, you know what, we know how to not get the flu anymore, right? It's don't be shaking hands and don't be hugging people and don't be kissing people. And you're probably not going to get the flu. And so, you know, I think that it's interesting. I think there's going to be some degree of evolution in our social behavior. Having said all of that, you know, humans are humans. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I so want to go to a concert. I so want to go to a movie. And so, you know, I mean, we really do thrive on that interaction and physical contact. And it's going to be quite interesting to me to see where we land.
Thank you, Maurice. Okay, Denise Wadsworth.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. I'm the speech language pathologist at Huntington Middle School for 20 years and constantly projecting 20 years into the future of what my students need to know in order to be vocationally successful, which means earn money to pay their bills. That's how I explain it to them. So based on that, you've mentioned blockchain. So computer skills are going to be important.
Yeah.
And then you are also an MBA. So for your future positions, do you think it's more important for them to also do some business classes while they're in college and get that familiarity, since medicine is a business?
Yeah, I think it's always useful to understand the environment that you're working in. You know, we try to really focus pretty hard on our philosophy is put the patient in the center of the room, make the decision, and it'll be the right decision. So, and what that means is sometimes that's not the best business decision for today, but I firmly believe in the long run, it will be the best decision. Having said all of that, I do think that it really is helpful if people really do understand basic business principles, whether it's, you know, managing your own finances or understanding why, you know, you can't have every single technology toy that's coming down the pike right now. It's really useful to be able to work with clinicians who have that kind of sophistication.
Would you encourage your own grandchildren to go into the field of medicine?
Ooh, that's a tough one. You know what I will tell you, I get asked this not infrequently, and what I would say is kind of back to that whole Peter Drucker complexity issue. I do believe it's a field that you will be happiest with if you have a tremendous amount of passion. So if you really feel like you want to go into medicine and nothing else is going to make you happy, then absolutely do it. It is not the kind of thing that I would do based on an anticipated salary, because it's a very long training. It requires huge personal investment and actually takes a pretty taxing personal toll in terms of providing people's health care. So if it's what you need to do and be happy, go for it.
Last follow-up about this, because one of our San Marino High School grads just flew back home from DC. She was in her residency in Washington, DC, fell on the ice, got a severe concussion, and said that during the training, she's going to be expected to do surgical trainings and be awake for 26 to 28 hours at a time as a resident. Is that still the case at some place like Huntington? And how does that cognitively impact a physician's decision-making?
Yeah, what I would say is that for the most part, most residency programs have limited work hours, particularly for residents specifically, and all residents, not just medicine residents, but surgery residents in general. And so I would say this is when you know you're getting pretty old. Today, as opposed to when I trained, where I'll be honest with you, 24, 36, even 48-hour shifts were not uncommon. That would be really, really rare, even in surgery, for someone to be working for 24 hours as a resident. And I will tell you that when I ran my own practice, particularly in trauma, 24-hour shifts were quite common. I actually took them off the table, and we went to all 12-hour shifts, because I do think the cognitive data is pretty clear that there is a decrement in performance.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Okay, Mary.
Can you repeat that last one on the 12-hour shifts?
Oh, it was just in my own practice with a group of trauma surgeons. There is very good data about people working at 24 hours and that they have some level of decrement of cognitive function. And so in my own practice, I switched us all to 12-hour shifts from 24.
Okay, Mary's next. Mary Yulin.
Okay, well, this year has been devastating for all of us in COVID and everything. But it has also revealed the tremendous disparities in healthcare delivery to communities of color. So as Huntington is approaching this kind of crossroads, how are you addressing racial inequities in healthcare at Huntington?
Yeah, I mean, we have done some work in that for quite a while, but I'm actually really happy, and you'd think I paid you, but I didn't, to announce in late December, actually hired at the vice president level for the hospital, a vice president of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Her name is Pamela Weatherspoon. She came to us from a hospital in New Jersey, and really is going to help us work on this area with a pretty laser-like focus. As you well know, those disparities are probably more societal than necessarily in terms of one particular hospital, but we certainly have an obligation to lean into the issue and do whatever it is we can to try to ameliorate the issues that result in that, whether it's around transportation or access or whatever that feels like. For example, one of the things that we are doing is we are partnering with the NAACP actually this Saturday to do a vaccine clinic at the NAACP office. Really, we do all of our vaccines here on campus, but we understand that there are sometimes that access is difficult for people. So we are taking that out into the community to try to give people more access. And I would just say, I actually have happened to know Pamela for about 12 years now, and I can assure you that is only the very beginning.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. I really appreciate your time and your answers to these questions. I just want to conclude with a sincere thank you for all the information. I have worked at the Huntington. I've been a patient at the Huntington. I have visited patients and family at the Huntington, and we're truly blessed to have you and your team as such a valuable community resource. Your answers, I think, have helped reinforce to members and guests that our healthcare needs are in very competent and compassionate hands. We have a small token of thanks for you. I think Rita might have something for
Oh my
you.
goodness, Rita.
We'd
Wow.
just like to.
Those are beautiful. Oh my God. And beautiful and heavy. It's just, I'm not a very good Vanna White. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, we just thank you so much and wish you a happy Valentine's Day. And again, we're grateful for the time you took from, I know, a very busy schedule to be with us. And thank all the guests who came today and the Rotarians for good questions that were sent to me. And again, it was a wonderful program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a privilege, and it is our honor to serve.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Bye.
Dr. Morgan, for joining us today. We will be donating a book on your behalf to our Crow Public Library. So thank you so much.
Oh, awesome. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And thank you to Barbara for hosting today. Excellent program. And a lot of planning went into this. So thank you so much, Barbara.
My pleasure.
Okay, Rotarians, please don't forget our program for next week is the chili cook-off. Ensure that you, if you want some chili, you RSVP with Stephanie. Rotarians and guests, thank you for joining us for today's meeting. We'd like to thank Cristobal Magana, Rosemary Simmons, Scott Bice, Amanda Fowler, Margaret Keene, Marcella Marlowe, Sophia Chan, Ashley, Clifford Daniel, and of course, Dr. Morgan. Thank you all for joining us today. The February 11th, 2021 meeting of the Rotary Club of San Marino is adjourned. Thank you all. See you next week.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, Maurice.
Aaron, we got a community grants meeting at
Yes.
1:30.
Thanks, Barbara.
Yes. Do we have a link, or do you need me to set up a?
No, Michelle took care of that.
Oh, okay. All right.
It'll be in a separate email. We'll see you in a bit.
Okay. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Hi, Dr. Chang. Hi, Dr. Orlowski. Good to see you. Okay, everyone. We'll see you next week. See you, John.